When we think of ancient civilizations, the empires that immediately spring to mind are usually Egypt, Rome, or Greece. But today, we're going back even further to look at the first great empire in Persia. Welcome to my channel. Today, we'll be asking, before Egypt and Rome, who were the Elamites? Before Egypt and Rome, meet Elam, Persia's first nation. While today's Iran is often referred to as Persia, that term didn't catch on until much later, and the region was home to many different kingdoms over the millennia before it became known as Persian. One of the earliest and most important was Elam, which emerged around 2700 BC and would leave a lasting legacy. The name Elam is believed to have been given to the region by the Akkadians, who were influenced by Sumerian culture. In fact, there are theories that Elam could derive from the Sumerian word for sunrise, perhaps referring to the rising sun over the mountains that marked the beginning of each day. The earliest records of the Elamites come from the time of the Akkadian Empire, when they were described as living beyond the mountains, far away from the heartland of Mesopotamia. According to Mesopotamian sources, Elam was sometimes divided into two regions, Elam proper and Anshan, with the latter being located farther south. However, archaeological evidence suggests that these divisions may not have been internally imposed. Instead, they might have been terms used by the Elamites to refer to themselves based on where they lived relative to the mountains. Elam had close ties to Anshan due to their shared language, customs, and proximity. It's possible that they were considered a single nation until later, when outside forces led to their split. But unfortunately, we don't have enough information to say for sure. One of the most notable features of Elamite culture was their language, which was part of the larger northwestern Iranian language family. This made them closely related to the Medes and Persians, who would later dominate the region. During the 3rd millennium BC, Elam played a significant role in the economic networks of Mesopotamia, specializing in the production of horses, mules, textiles, and gold. They also traded with the Indus Valley civilization, exchanging items such as carnelian, lapis lazuli, and other precious materials. Due to this prominence in trade, Elam had a considerable amount of wealth and power, which contributed to its longevity and influence. In the early years, Elamite society was likely organized into small chiefdoms, but it eventually developed into a complex chiefdom or even an early state by 2400 BC. Their settlements were often fortified, indicating a hierarchical social structure and the presence of a ruling elite. These early states were primarily located in the Khuzestan province of Iran, with one notable exception being the city of Susa, which was situated farther inland. As time went on, more cities were established throughout the region. It is important to note that while Elamites did settle in Mesopotamia, they never truly conquered the region. Instead, they held specific territories in southern Mesopotamia as distant vassals of the Mesopotamian empires. Over time, however, the Elamites would achieve greater success against their northern neighbors. In the mid-3rd millennium BC, the kingdom of Elam reached its peak under the reign of Queen Naasati, also known as Queen Artemisia. While little is known about her life, she is remembered for leading Elam to victory against the 3rd dynasty of Ur and securing the empire's western borders. After her death, Elam entered a period of decline, partially due to internal conflict and partially due to external pressures. By the end of the 3rd millennium BC, Elamite culture began to show signs of change, possibly influenced by the nearby rise of the Assyrian Empire. However, these changes weren't necessarily negative and instead represented a new chapter in Elamite history. From this point forward, Elamite rulers increasingly adopted Mesopotamian names, and some of their cultural practices began to resemble those of Mesopotamia. Nonetheless, their language and cultural identity remained distinct. During this time, Elam experienced a resurgence in power and influence and became an important buffer between Mesopotamia and the central Iranian plateau. But this golden age wouldn't last forever. In the late 9th century BC, the Elamites suffered a devastating blow when they were conquered by the Median Empire. Despite this setback, Elamite culture continued to thrive under Median rule, demonstrating its resilience and adaptability. The Medes respected the Elamites and even allowed them to maintain their own institutions and traditions to a certain extent. This policy of religious tolerance contributed to the stability of the region and ensured that Elamite culture survived for centuries. However, after the Medes were conquered by the Achaemenid Persians in the 6th century BC, the situation changed. The Achaemenid rulers viewed the Elamites as a potential threat and took steps to suppress their culture and impose Persian customs. They discouraged the use of the Elamite language and attempted to erase any remaining traces of their distinct identity. Still, despite these efforts, some aspects of Elamite culture managed to persist. The Elamite language, for example, continued to be used alongside Old Persian, and some Elamite gods found their way into the pantheon of the Persian Empire. One of the most famous examples of this syncretism is the goddess Naasati, who was worshipped in Elam as a warrior queen and was later identified with the Roman goddess Athena. This fusion of cultures reflects the complex and dynamic history of the region, which was shaped by centuries of interactions between Elam and its neighboring empires. The destruction of Elam by the Persians was only temporary, however. In the 3rd century BC, the region rose again with the establishment of the Parthian Empire. The Parthians were a nomadic people who originated in Central Asia, but they quickly adopted local customs and traditions after settling in Elam. In fact, Parthian kings often took on Elamite names, such as Shapur-Fas, who reigned from 247 to 270 BC. During his rule, he rebuilt the city of Susa, which became the empire's second capital, reflecting the enduring importance of Elamite culture. Despite the revival of Elamite culture under the Parthians, the region would eventually come under the control of the Sasanian Empire in the 3rd century AD. The Sasanian rulers, who were of Persian descent, continued to persecute the Elamites, viewing them as a potential threat to the empire's stability. However, the Elamites demonstrated remarkable tenacity and managed to preserve their cultural identity for several more centuries. The resilience of Elamite culture is evident in the archaeological record, which shows that the Elamites continued to practice their unique religious rituals and maintain their distinct material culture. Even after centuries of oppression, the Elamites eventually won official recognition from the Sasanians when they converted to Zoroastrianism. This marked a significant turning point in their history, as it showed that the Sasanians finally acknowledged their presence and granted them a degree of religious freedom. But even with this newfound acceptance, the end of Elam was near. In the 7th century AD, the Muslim Arab armies conquered Elam and the rest of the Iranian plateau. Following the Muslim conquest, the Elamites faced severe persecution due to their refusal to convert to Islam. Many were forced to flee their homeland and seek refuge elsewhere, resulting in a massive exodus of Elamite people. Those who remained were subjected to heavy taxes and restrictions on their religious practices. As a result, Elamite culture all but disappeared within a few decades. However, there are theories that some Elamites migrated to India and Central Asia. There's evidence of Elamite presence in India dating back to the 6th century BC, suggesting that a group of Elamites may have traveled there for trade or diplomatic missions. Similarly, the presence of Elamite loanwords in various Central Asian languages points to a possible Elamite influence during the early Middle Ages. Whether these groups can truly be considered descendants of ancient Elamites is debatable. Today, very little physical evidence of Elam remains. The vast majority of what we know about the ancient kingdom comes from archaeological excavations at sites like Chogha Zanbil and the city of Susa. But the legacy of Elam lives on in the modern Persian identity. Many scholars believe that the Persians actually took the name from the earlier kingdom of Elam and adapted it to their own culture. In doing so, the Persians inherited a rich cultural legacy that had deep roots in the ancient Iranian plateau. So while the kingdom of Elam may no longer exist, its influence on the history and identity of the region continues to be felt even today. The kingdom of Elam was a dominant force in Western Asia from the late 3rd millennium BC until the 7th century AD. Located in the Iranian plateau, Elam had close ties to Mesopotamia. Its strategic position allowed it to play a pivotal role in regional politics, economics, and culture. Despite facing numerous challenges, including attacks from neighboring empires and forced assimilation attempts, the Elamites preserved their language, customs, and identity for centuries. Their resilience and adaptability are evident in the syncretism between Elamite and Mesopotamian cultures, as well as the revival of Elamite culture under the Parthian Empire. Although the exact origins of the Elamites remain uncertain, their profound impact on the history of Western Asia is undeniable. The kingdom of Elam serves as a testament to the richness and complexity of ancient Iranian history, reminding us of the vibrant civilizations that thrived in the region long before the rise of empires like Egypt and Rome. What do you find most fascinating about Elam? Do you think their strategic location helped or hurt them in the long run? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.